So there was an article over the weekend in the New York Post entitled, you got to Google this, Why Progressive Women Want to Date Men Who Act Like Conservatives. And it's by a woman named Melanie Notkin, who writes for the Post, I believe, pretty regularly. And she's a self-described liberal-minded person, and she's talking about herself and her friends who live in New York City and consider themselves very open-minded about gender, but are shocked to find that their egalitarian dating styles are holding them back. And what I loved about this was that, I mean, it's sad in a way, because this is a generation of people who are trying to put in what they think are these cool, hip, newfound gendered ways of relating to each other by chucking anything that smacks of tradition and finding that it doesn't work. So let me just read you some of this. My friend Mark, 36, is a catch by many New York City standards. He's good looking, highly educated, and a talented photographer. He's also progressive and participates in protests and gives to left-leaning causes. And Mark is looking for love. He wants to get married and have kids. Now that whole paragraph, concerns me just in terms of if that's your mindset, trying to mesh that with marriage is going to be quite a tall order, which is, of course, the point of this article. In a liberal city like New York, swimming with single women who are wishing they weren't, one could assume Mark wouldn't have a problem finding a mate. But he remains single, and he's trying to understand why. Quote, I'm really open-minded and cool about gender stuff on dates, but I always feel like I'm walking on eggshells. Like that alone should tell you something, Mark told me. If I pay for dinner, it signals I don't value my date as my equal, so I'm super casual about it all. If she wants to pay or split it, whatever, that's fine with me. And Melanie Notkin, the author, wants to say to her friend that despite his best intentions, his egalitarian dating style is the problem. While some women balk at any hint of traditional male gender behavior, more lament the loss of chivalry. I'm one of them. I find it attractive when a man plans our first few dates and knowingly walks curbside when we're together. It signals he wants to protect me from passing traffic or errant puddle splashes. Okay, then she goes on to talk and brings in an evolutionary psychologist, Jeffrey Miller, who wrote the book The Mating Mind, and who said, quote, it's a mismatch between what progressive women say they want and what they actually respond to. Miller told me, women's instinctive mate preferences have evolved for hundreds of thousands of years for guys who are competent, strong, good providers, good protectors, and happy with a sexual division of labor. Women want decisive men who are also compassionate and thoughtful. So, of course, this is great fodder for my overall message, which is that it doesn't make any difference how much we change as a culture or progress as a culture. Some things don't change, and human nature is one of them. It is static, and what causes sexual attraction is static. That's also the same for men and for women. And the most obvious form of that sexual attraction for women is chivalry. So chivalry does not go out of style just because we function differently today than we did 30 years ago, politically and socially. And that's what men and women are up against today. They're trying to combine politics in a space where it doesn't belong. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you vote, you're still going to be attracted to the same thing. You're still going to want the same thing, which means there's going to be a problem with what's coming at you politically and what you're told you should want for women to rise up, for example, above men's station and sort of be in charge of them. And then what you're told you should do, which is that, versus what you respond to sexually and naturally, which is for a man you can depend on, who is competent and stronger and who will take care of you and protect and provide and all of that stuff. So it's a lose-lose situation, obviously, and that's where we are today with marriages and relationships. But people aren't piecing that together. They're not understanding that this is not a political issue. It doesn't matter. You're basically trying to politicize something that shouldn't be politicized. You can't politicize sexual attraction. and the needs and desires we have as humans and have, as this gentleman said, over hundreds of years. So anyway, check out the article. I shouldn't laugh at it because it's actually just, I mean, these folks generally don't understand. You know, they didn't realize until they're in the thick of it why it's not working. It doesn't matter what your politics are. At the end of the day, if you don't employ traditional gender roles in your relationship, you're going to be miserable.